welcome to the next episode of On Screen. I'm your host, Dylan Wright, and I'm here to take you on a journey through film and television. So, as you may or may not know, we are in the middle of what is called On Screen's Directors Month, where we take a look at a film director and go through his body of work and see what holds up, what doesn't, see some different themes and motifs going throughout each of the films, and kind of discuss the director's history in the world of the movies. Last week we had Quentin Tarantino, whose films I've always loved, and this week we have a more divisive director, a director that has some very well-received, critically acclaimed movies, and a director that also has some really badly received and poorly reviewed movies. The man, the myth, the legend, M. Night Shyamalan. Shyamalan is pretty well known nowadays for his twists that he puts in the movies. You know, that end of the movie cincher that leaves audiences going, oh my god, I need to see that again because it changed the entire way I look at this movie. And that all kind of started with his third film that he released, The Sixth Sense. His first two movies were nothing really to write home about, Wide Awake and Praying with Anger. They're just dramatic comedies, run-of-the-mill. But most people started to pay attention to Mr. Shyamalan with The Sixth Sense, which stars Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment. I don't know if you know the "I see dead people" line. Well, it comes from this movie. And the plot is, you know, this kid sees dead people. I don't know if you would have gotten that from that quote, and Bruce Willis's character is kind of a child psychologist that's helping him out with this and discovering, you know, does he actually see dead people and stuff like that. And there's a twist at the end of the movie that I won't ruin it, even though it's kind of public knowledge. If you really want to know what it is, either watch the movie or just ask the person next to you. I'm sure they will already know that a certain thing is a certain thing the whole time. That's my vague spoiler, I guess, for that movie. But it was critically acclaimed. Everybody loved the writing. Some people thought it was the scariest movie ever made. And he kind of became known as the next Steven Spielberg pretty quickly. A lot of Hollywood thought that he was going places, and his next movie, Unbreakable, that was released in 2000, definitely didn't do anything to kind of dissuade that. A lot of people thought it was great. It didn't get as much recognition as The Sixth Sense did, but in my opinion, it's an even better movie. It's kind of like a secret superhero film. It again stars Bruce Willis, and this time he's with Samuel L. Jackson. So that duo, you can't go wrong. I mean, Die Hard with a Vengeance was the best Die Hard. Well, not the best Die Hard, but one of the best Die Hards because you had Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson running around the streets. It's just a combo that works, and they work really well in the movie. And it's pretty riveting. It's done in a way that superhero films aren't usually done. Definitely go see that. Next up, he had Signs, which was about kind of an alien invading a house of this family. And it had Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. It was good. A lot of people liked it. Some of the alien stuff was a little meh, but, you know, what can you do? And things started going downhill for Mr. Shyamalan a little bit with The Village. The twist in The Village wasn't what people wanted it to be. They were very kind of mad about how the film ended. It's basically this Puritan town that aren't allowed to go outside of the village because of these like mythical monsters and things that they're told about, and this one girl kind of has to save somebody's life. You know, it just goes from there. I mean, it's got a really, really good cast. It had like one of the first appearances of Bryce Dallas Howard, who's Ron Howard's daughter and a really good actress. And it also had, again, Joaquin Phoenix. Sigourney Weaver was in it. Adrian Brody played a pretty good part in it. But, again, audiences weren't really as receptive to The Village as his last couple of movies. And then it even just spiraled way more heavily with two films that I like to call the movies of M. Night Shyamalan. You know what? I'll say three because the one that comes after that is even, oh God. But the two films I'm talking about are Lady in the Water and The Happening. Lady in the Water is M. Night's kind of version of a fairy tale, and it stars one of my favorite actors, Paul Giamatti, and it is really not great. You don't really get what Shyamalan's trying to put across in the movie. He's trying to make his own mythology, but it's not really gelling with what people take seriously, and he doesn't do a great job with it. And he has this thing that some writers do when critics don't like their work and they kind of bash him. He puts a writer in the film to act as the critics and then brutally murders them. You know, they tried that with Godzilla. They put Siskel and Ebert stand-ins, but then they, for for some reason didn't kill him. But yeah, he did a little nudge at the critics. Oh, you shouldn't be saying these things about my movies. They're good. But Lady in the Water lost a lot of audiences, and it was a passion project of his, so he was really kind of upset about that. And then that went right into The Happening, coming out in 2008, and that is one of the movies that's so bad it's good. You could watch it. It's supposed to be a horror movie about this sudden plague or something. We don't know what it is, and the twist is what it is, so I'm not going to say the twist. But it's causing people to kill themselves, and it has Mark Wahlberg as a high school science teacher, because that's the casting you want to put Mark Wahlberg in. And it has Zooey Deschanel in the movie, and she doesn't really do much. And you have Mark Wahlberg just not knowing how to act. You got to take an interest in science, bros. You're a science. Oh my God, it's hilarious, some of the stuff in it. There's a guy that's obsessed with hot dogs, but it is not as scary as the movie thinks itself to be. Oh my God, it's just so stupid. I can't say any, I kind of want to recommend it just for how hilarious it is at times. There's a scene where someone accuses Mark Wahlberg of trying to kill her, and he goes, "What? No." And he has this look of childlike, I don't know. It's you just have to see it. So I am going to recommend The Happening. It's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And then in 2010 he came out with an even worse film in my opinion, The Last Airbender, based off of the hit Nickelodeon cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender. And of course they couldn't use the name Avatar because James Cameron had to use that for his epic that kind of flopped because it was not great. But The Last Airbender, M. Night said he was a fan of the series, but he did not adapt it well. It was not great. The actors he got to play the kids were just poorly casted because half of them couldn't really act, which is usually a problem with child actors, but the way that they were just stone-faced and empty-eyed, and you couldn't relate to them. The one good thing was Dev Patel as Zuko. He did an okay job, but it's a whitewashed movie. The two characters that are supposed to be Inuit are white. One character is supposed to be Asian. He's white. And then the bad guys are people of Indian descent. So I don't know. It's just not a great movie. He really didn't understand the material, and he mispronounced the characters' names. And it's based off of a TV show. It's not like a book where the pronunciation you could interpret it different ways because it's just written down. You've never heard it. You've literally heard the name several times on the television. How do you mess that up? It just frustrates me. It's a frustrating movie, and I don't want to watch it ever again. And then he did After Earth with Will Smith, and that was another down movie. And at this point, everybody's basically given up on M. Night Shyamalan. He's dropped the ball 5 times now. And having Will Smith and his son be in a movie together as they traverse Earth after it's been gone or whatever, it's not a fun watch. It's not. But then he started to pick things up. 2015, he came out with a movie called The Visit, which is regrettably a found footage movie, which I hate found footage movies, but apparently it's really well done, and he's kind of back to form. And he recently also came out with a movie called Split, which also has received really great reviews. So basically what I take away from M. Night Shyamalan is he does a lot better with independent films rather than these big budget Hollywood blockbusters. Like The Sixth Sense was kind of an indie film. All these new ones are basically independent films. And he's starting to try and build back the trust of the audience and Hollywood as a whole. There's rumors that he's doing an Unbreakable 2, which would be really cool because that's, in my opinion, his best movie. But his movies tend to have a theme of family, especially The Visit, Signs, Sixth Sense, and the alienation of family. Because like in Signs, it's all about this family trying to save themselves and communicating back and forth. In The Visit, it's about a family not being what you think. In Lady in the Water, it's about basically an apartment complex becoming a community. It's really clear that he sees family as this big thing in his life, and he kind of portrays it through his films. I mean, he's a good filmmaker. He writes pretty... No, he doesn't really write that well, but when he does get the right script, and the right characters, he does a pretty good job. It's just tough to try and decipher sometimes what he's trying to put across because it sometimes sounds really stilted in the wrong actor's hands. So that's all the time I have for this week's episode of On Screen. If you have any suggestions for future topics on the show, please let me know. I would love to cover anything that you would like me to cover. Next week, unfortunately, is our spring break, so there won't be a new episode of On Screen. But the week after, be sure we're going to be continuing Directors Month. And who knows what the next director is going to be, so be sure to keep your ears to the grindstone if that's an actual thing. And until next time, take care.